Hello everyone. Today's video is about a case that is taking a very long time to get better. Just before jumping into the video, if you don't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. And as per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. And if you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. So I'm going to read this message that somebody sent me as a DM to my Instagram account. Whoops. All right. So it says, "Hi, Dr. Aid. I know you can't give medical advice. Thank you for acknowledging that. That is absolutely true. Apparently, you've been watching my videos, and that every patient is so different. But have you ever had a CIRS patient? CIRS being an acronym for chronic inflammatory response syndrome, usually associated with mold toxicity. So have you ever had a CIRS patient that couldn't recover their immune system function? I'm under the good guidance of a naturopathic doctor and have been treating for 3 years. I've done detox successfully on VIP, which is typically used as a nasal spray to help with mold toxicity. I'm still working on my gut health, low-dose immunotherapy, vision therapy, physiotherapy for post-concussion syndrome. I am getting better, but it is so slow. I was unknowingly in mold for 7.5 years. Is that why it is taking me so long to heal? I guess I just need a finger of hope." Oh, and then corrected, glimmer of hope. "Do you have patients not recover? I'm literally doing all that I can, but every day is still hard, way better than it was, but still hard." So yeah, thank you for the question, and I'm glad to hear that you're getting better. I'm sorry to hear that it's slower than that it's going slowly. 3 years is a long time, and yeah, it's tough. So I hope you're better ASAP. It's one of the things I say to my patients all the time. I try to have do my best to have a calm disposition, methodical, level head. I think I do a good job with that with my patients. But I'm actually I'm a really impatient guy when it comes to getting results for my patients. I really want them to be better yesterday. I like people getting better fast, and in the world of complex chronic illness, that is sometimes what we see, but oftentimes it is not what we see. So there's lessons in patience that we all seem to need to learn, unfortunately, in this regard. What I will say is that it does sometimes take a long time to get better, especially patients, and there's no indication of this in the question, but just for reference, folks that are more sensitive to different things, like the patients that I worked with, that I'm still working with, who have been on who are on the longest roads to recovery, are typically folks that are the most sensitive to things. So when we are really limited with how quickly we can bring in therapeutics, or sometimes we just can't bring in X, Y, or Z treatment, because I've had patients, they have a history of mold toxicity, but they can't take any binders. That sometimes really slows things down, or they can't tolerate any nasal sprays, or they can't move out of the really moldy environment that they're living in. Or they can't tolerate. I have this one patient with SIBO. It's chronic digestive issues, textbook SIBO, did a lactulose breath test. Person is chock full of SIBO, and yet this person cannot tolerate a single oral antimicrobial, try as I might. And anyways, I could post a whole video about all the, I think, very inventive ways that we have tried to get antimicrobials into this person's gut, and it is just not happen. So we've got to figure out all these roundabout ways to get at it. So anyways, folks that are really sensitive, I have patients I'm working with, and we've been working together for probably 7 years, and it's we've made gains along the way, but in some of those cases, it's half a step forward, 2 steps backwards, and then we spend a bunch of time regaining those 2 steps backwards, and then it's another half a step forward, and it can just be really up and down. So some cases take a really long time to get better, and it's very challenging. It's of course the most challenging on the patients, because you're living with those symptoms day to day. It's impacting your life, of course, in the biggest way. It is challenging on us as clinicians as well, because we want our patients to get better, and it's hard to see folks suffering. So it's challenging all around. So there are patients that take a long time to get better, and it's challenging. Just full stop. It's challenging. Have I seen patients not get better? I mean, I've certainly had patients where we've been working together, and after a certain period of time, they say, "You know what? typically, if it comes to this, they'll typically say, Dr. Ray, like, I appreciate everything you've done. We've learned, figured out some things. I've made X or Y or Z gains, but like I'm just ready to take a break from treatment. It can be really, it can be a gauntlet. Taking the supplements, doing whatever treatments it happens to be, working with the diet, whatever it is that we have in place. And some patients say, like I want to just take a break. And then sometimes a couple of years later, they'll come back and say, okay, I'm ready to pick up where we left off. Or sometimes I don't hear from them again, or maybe I will hear from them again, years down the road. I think I've had some patients where, it's been maybe 5 years or something, and then they come back and start working with me again. So some patients do decide to, stop treatment. But I think the subtext of the question, because this question has been asked of me before by other by patients of mine, saying like, do you have patients who don't get better? And I think the subtext there is like, have you had a patient, or do you have patients where like you just don't have a reasonable next step? Or do you feel like you become stuck, so to speak? And I certainly have had some patients, not very many, I'm happy to say, but I have had a few patients over the years where, we're kind of got to the point where it's like, I don't really know if there's much else that I can offer. But with the patients that I have had that, difficult conversation with, I think if I were to see them again now in my practice, there would be, several options that I just didn't know about at the time that I now know about, because I'm always striving to learn more. Thankfully, science and medicine are an evolving process. There's new therapies and research and things like that coming out all the time. When I first started practicing, I'd never heard of SIBO before. Nobody was talking about it. There were, I'm sure, a bunch of cases I treated in my earlier years that didn't get all the way better, or maybe didn't get better at all. And if I had known about SIBO at the time, then they may very well have. So thankfully, there's always new information coming out, and a lot of us clinicians who are in the complex chronic health issue world. Sorry, there's daycare going by this time of day every year, and the kids are just so cute. I can see them through the window, so I'm quite distracted here right now. Need to refocus here. A lot of us who work with patients who are suffering from complex chronic illness, we're in it for the long haul with you. We're going to the conferences, we're sharing ideas, we're collaborating. I was consulting on a patient's case from somewhere down in the States. I can't remember where now. And I had, a really great chat with this doc who's been practicing, way longer than me. But his patient wanted to, consult with me, and it was great. We had a chat. I shared some ideas and, shared some information that he wasn't aware of. Then he was talking about some stuff he was doing that I hadn't heard of. And it's always quite a collegial atmosphere. Those of us working with complex chronic illness. So we're always striving to get better. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I gave it a good college try, and like nobody could seem to fix my fibromyalgia, my chronic fatigue, my chronic pain, consider reaching out to a functional medicine practitioner, a naturopathic doctor, whoever it happens to be, and maybe reach out and say, hey, like, these are all the things I tried before. Maybe is there anything new, something that is maybe missing here, or get a fresh set of eyes on a case. That can be really useful as well. That's why, I think the reason that I have some colleagues out there where they'll say, what, Dr. Reid, like I'm stuck on this case. Can you give me some fresh eyes on this? And, well, I'm not even gonna say 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 so far. I'm sure there'll be a case that I'll have no input on eventually, maybe. But so far I always have some input. It's like, oh, have you thought about this or that? The one other thing that, just on that note, that kind of springs to mind as, I'm reading through this question here, is like the person who asked the question, you listed a bunch of different things that you're working with, and I think there was an etc. in there, so there are obviously other things that you didn't list that you're working with, but I've had so many patients come into my practice, or whether it's case consults or folks that I'm working with directly here, and they'll say, I've done everything, and I look at the list and I'm like, you have done a lot of stuff. You have done like dozens and dozens and dozens of different things. You are taking dozens of supplements right now. Like you are doing a lot of stuff. You've done like lots of injections, lots of IVs, all these different things. You've gone overseas to get stem cell therapy, all these different things. But the patients who come in saying I've done everything, I don't think I've ever had one of those cases where I said, yeah, you know what, you're right, and I have no other ideas here, because there are so many different avenues, so many different approaches that can be looked at. And so when a person says to me, like, oh yeah, like I'm doing all these things for my mold toxicity, but I'm still not all the way better, or not getting better fast enough, I always wonder, well, is there maybe something that's missing? Is there is a detox component not being addressed properly? Is there some concomitant, like some comorbidity thing going on? So they're it's always possible there could be something missing, and that's where getting a second set of eyes or a fresh set of eyes can be helpful. So anyways, I hope this information was useful, and I hope that this inspires a glimmer of hope or a finger of hope, any type of hope really. If there's any questions on this topic or anything else, just post it in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer as soon as I can.